fucking hope that works. All right. So thanks for coming again, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. So what I've been doing for the past podcast is that we have been kind of introducing the person like while they're in front of us, but I always find that comes off a little like it's a show rather than just starting the conversation like, what's up, man? What's going on? You know? So so we're just gonna do that. We're just gonna start it off and start talking to you. But yeah, man. So Terrapin, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. We just came back from playing a little scrimmage of soccer. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not really a sports guy at all, so you could say whatever and I'll believe you.
So Daniel scored a touchdown.
Nice.
And then a home run.
Nope. That is not part of it.
I know enough that you're lying.
Damn it.
You should have said bullshit.
It was very tiring and it was rainy and gross, but I had fun. It was fun.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's good. It's good exercise. But anyway, let's get to the fucking details here. So Nick, where are you from?
I'm actually born and raised in St. Petersburg.
Fuck, man. You see? So we just had this conversation with Alistair last week where I've been meeting a lot of people that were born here, and I find that so interesting. And now, like, I know you, for example, being in Terrapin, like, you probably know a lot of people in the scene and stuff like that. You've probably seen it grow, and I guess now we're all seeing it kind of go away in the Central Ave, which kind of sucks.
Right, yeah.
But
I was actually just talking about that earlier with the Daddy Cool Records leaving the 600 block.
yeah,
You know,
that
and
fucking sucks.
I remember when Foo Bar first opened, is actually my first gig ever in a band. It was at Foo Bar. It was about a month after they opened, about a decade ago. And now seeing it go away, it's kind of weird. And it wasn't really a place I ever hung out or played that often. In fact, a lot of times I hated playing there. but it's just, it was so integral to my growth as a musician and just meeting people, kind of coming out of my shell a bit, that seeing it go kind of, it makes me frustrated.
Yeah, and for us that were new here, like it's weird to see, you know, play like we've played there a couple times and whatnot, and just like to see that block itself starting to go away. It's like, what's happening? Like, is this a place that we should stay? Is this like what I don't know. I have no idea. Like, I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I'm hoping. According to Creative Loafing, it seems like Daddy Cool already found a spot to reopen that, which is great.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know where that is, the warehouse.
It's Warehouse District, so do you know where the, if I'm not mistaken, where the Haslam's bookstore is, a little further down Central?
Mm-mm.
No.
So if you head past the stadium, it's kind of this is an industrial zone. I think that's somewhere around there they're moving to.
Oh, interesting.
That'd be cool if that area kind of turned into like what Central was, you know what I'm saying? Where there's just like a block of, you know, venues and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's around where the Venture compound used to be. I don't know if you're familiar with that place.
No.
It was just pretty much an old warehouse that was converted to an art space and studio and so forth. And they closed down a few years ago. But I think it's going to be the same sort of situation with Daddy Cool moving there now in that neighborhood.
Well, I don't know, man. It's a weird. I don't know. It's weird, man, because I feel like there's a lot of new bands popping up, like a lot of new artists and stuff like that, and it's kind of I wonder. I mean, people are saying that the area is gentrified, which is weird in my opinion because I feel like that area is generally kind of. I mean, it's not like a poor neighborhood or anything like that. Like, it's like the happening area. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand where the word even gentrification comes in this aspect.
Well, you of course don't remember the old 600 block before Foo Bar and before 662 and all that, and it was disgusting. People didn't want to hang out there at all, and it was just a bunch of homeless people, some shitty clothing stores, and just boarded up stores. And they converted that, you know, over to kind of more of a punk rock vibe with 662 and Foo Bar, and Octave was there as well. There was a guitar store right next to Foo Bar. And I think with closing those venues that were kind of and Star Booty as well, the punk rock hair salon, I think with closing those places that were kind of supported by these punk rockers or, you know, indie rockers, and putting in, you know, biscuit place or a poke bowl place. It's kind of taking away from the local vibe.
I was gonna say because Fubar did seem kind of out of place where it was in terms of like what was around it and things like that. Like I remember like across the street was this place my coworker goes to get her dog's treats at, and it was like really weird. It was like,
the
what is
dog biscuit company or something.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that and that's probably why it happened. I mean, I just wonder where it's like gonna move to, because I feel like that's what happens. I mean, you gentrify a place and then it just those kind of places like music venues and stuff like that, they just kind of move somewhere else. So
yeah, I think on the last week that Fubar was open, I had a show and I was talking to the owner Jay that they are thinking of moving to like the beach area.
That'd be cool.
That'd be kind of weird, but
that'd be tight though.
Should be interesting if they do that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. That's like in Miami. There wasn't, or at least to my knowledge, there weren't that many venues when we were there, and now there's a bunch more popping up, but there was a couple cool ones kind of close to the beach, and that's always cool because it kind of gives you the vibe of like, what's a good example? I would say kind of if Ybor were on the beach where there's just people like around, you know, and I guess they're walking around and they're like, oh, what's going on in there? And they just kind of like walk in to see what's going on. So that would be tight. Like I don't know, I like the beach vibe kind of shit, so that's my aesthetic.
Yeah, it would be interesting to have more of a punk rock venue on the beach as opposed to the places where they just have Jimmy Buffett covers.
I was gonna say that, yeah.
That would be
like
cool.
You want something heavier, you can go there. So that would be cool.
It's kind of sad, man, that it's sad to me that there's such a market for cover bands, bro. Like I get why people like them because they want to go somewhere and listen to music that they're already familiar with, but I mean, I don't know, man. Like for me personally, I love going to a venue and seeing a band that I think is just, like I'm like I've never heard this before and this sounds great. Like that blows my mind because there are amazing artists that are not big and they're, they live here, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a unique thing. I don't know. I guess I'm alone, or at least we're alone, because I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, I do. It's
kind of sad, man. Like, I don't know. That's another reason why we've been trying to go out to more shows. Like, we're going to the Microgroove show later today to go and see, I don't know how to pronounce it. I believe it's Pogo?
Pogo?
I don't know. Yeah, it's probably
Pogo. Somewhere around
I don't know.
But yeah, we're gonna go and see that show at 5 or whatever.
Nice.
Instead of watching a Super Bowl. Not that I give a fuck about that anyway, but all right, well, so you're from St. Pete. That's cool. When did you start playing music?
Actually, I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to music. I was in college. I went to college in Gainesville, and I just picked up the guitar one day. I just felt like it, and it was about maybe 11 years ago when I was 20. I just started playing the guitar, and I'm still pretty shitty at it. I never stuck with it, but I switched over to bass pretty shortly after. So I've been doing that for about a decade.
Nice. And you're not currently playing bass for a band, are you?
No, I kind of gave up the band stuff a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So go into that. What happened with that?
Well,
then?
This actually kind of ties in with what you're saying about the cover bands, because I used to be in a few of them.
Okay.
So I was in a cover band, and it was just a revolving door of personnel, as they tend to be in most bands. And we were just having trouble finding singer, finding guitarists, finding drummers, and everyone that we found they're pretty shitty.
Like people, or just like on their instruments?
Well, both.
That's the worst. You're a shitty person and you suck.
And at that time, this was probably 2013, 2014 maybe, and I had just started playing more keyboards. And in that particular band, I started doing double duty on bass and on keys. And that band broke up, and I just said, you know what, I'm done with this band stuff. Fuck it. I'm going to start my... I was always into electronic music, so I figured that would probably be the easiest path to do as a solo artist, considering how shitty I am on guitar and singing. So I didn't want to be one of those guys, so I wanted to do something that I liked and I thought was a little bit different, but more along the lines of something that I liked. And so, I've been in a couple of bands since then, and, not for very long. They never go anywhere.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, to be in a band is probably one of the most difficult things to do as an artist, because you have to depend on, depending on how large your band is, but you have to depend on other people to be at the same place at the same time with the same frame of, the same mindset, all that stuff. And it's difficult, man. Honestly, it would be a lot easier, and I guess it could even be more fulfilling in some cases to just be a solo artist and, control everything on your own. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it can be, but then you're also hindered by your limitations as well.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, because you can't be as, I guess, free in sense of what you're playing and stuff like that. But it's still like the way that there's a couple people that I know that do the solo thing. You are one of them. Gushing is one of them. Riley, I've seen Riley play on his own, and you guys do it well, so that's good. Like, I've seen people do it that don't do it well. Oh, I've seen Infinite Third too. He's pretty cool.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's cool too. But yeah, like, I think the main thing. I mean, this is all obviously opinionated as well. It's just not like a fact, but as long as every song doesn't sound the same to me, I enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't feel like you do that, so that's cool.
Oh, I'm glad you do, because I feel like that.
No.
You feel like they sound the same?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
No, I mean, why don't, so you could, well, I see, this is the thing, like, I'm thinking, because Gushing, he kind of incorporates playing guitar on his stuff, and that's cool. I was about to say, oh, you should incorporate playing guitar, but it's like, nah, you probably don't want to do that.
Well, I've thought about it, and I've actually thought about incorporating more bass, actually, instead of guitar. But whenever I sit down and do it, I just don't feel that vibe.
Yeah.
It doesn't work out for me.
Well, yeah, I can see that with the kind of stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, like the electronic is just gonna sound better there, probably.
Yeah, like the sub bass, for example, rather than playing like an actual bass.
Right.
Yeah, because I had a couple songs on my last record where I originally dubbed them with electric bass, and I just didn't like how it sounded, and I switched over to synth bass, and it fit a lot better.
Yeah, it fit better.
Yeah.
Have you like approached other artists that are, I guess, like fans of yours into maybe like collaborating with them at all?
I'm typically not the one that approaches people for collaborations, but I get a lot of people approaching me, and I've agreed to some of them, but it's kind of the same thing with the band thing where it just kind of falls apart, and so I haven't really gone anywhere with that kind of stuff.
Why do you think that is, though? Do you think it's just because of like situational kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a couple singers on my solo stuff, a couple guitarists, and it's just our vibes really don't mesh, as people or as musicians, and oftentimes, more often than not, it's vibing as people that causes our relationship to fall apart. So we just go our separate ways, and I just continue doing what I've been doing.
That makes sense. Yeah, I could see. I mean, it would definitely be difficult to be in a band with someone that you're just not like, you can't be friends with, because that's the one thing that I've noticed, like playing with them. I've been playing with them for a long time now.
Who's them, Daniel?
with you guys. But yeah, I've only really played with them and Jordan Esker. So it's like I don't really have too much experience like fucking around with other bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you'd probably have a lot more experience with that than I do. But yeah, man, I mean, the fact that you're still doing it and that you're playing, and you're also hosting your own open mic as well, right?
Yeah, I just started doing that a few weeks ago, and I'm not the most social person, and it's difficult for me to host that, be kind of outgoing and gregarious, and it's just not fun to me, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing it. I mean, the place is like 2 minutes away from my house, and I only have to bring my PA, so that's not so bad, and they pay me.
How much? Well, I guess we don't have to talk about that. Yeah,
a decent amount.
Really, that's cool.
Not anything great, but considering it's 5 minutes away from my house,
Yeah.
Wait, so is it like I guess this social? I'm assuming you have social anxiety, is what it is, right?
Yeah, I do, and a lot of times I just don't feel like it.
Yeah, yeah. Which is like, okay, so because I'm like that, or we are like that as well, and even I think we've talked about this a couple of times, but even starting to do this, for example, like this podcast, starting to attend shows and stuff like that, it's really been a struggle for us. But I've felt personally that it's something that I kind of needed to get past, because like if not, then I don't know. I don't know. I just
Well, no, I mean, it's you have bands who a long time ago. I'm not speaking about anyone that we know now, but you know, it's like crazy to see bands that you're like, wow, their music is not as good as ours. What is it? And then you start realizing that they stay after shows, they talk to people, they hang out, they're there. And it's just like, we would literally play and leave. And it's like, you can't do that. You know, I had a couple of friends tell me that. I was in a couple of bands when we first started, and one of the other guys in the other band were like, dude, you gotta show face. I mean, it's the only way that it really works. And, you know, it sucks to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Could I just not people?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat too. Like, I usually just play and then leave and, you know, go to sleep. But in the past, 6 months or so, I try to talk to the people that I noticed during the show that were into it, and I go up to them and I'll give them, a piece of merch or something, like a CD or a sticker, and say, follow me on blah, blah, blah. And, that kind of works.
Yeah, that's
better
smart.
than nothing.
That's smart.
For sure.
Yeah, because it's funny that you say that, because I didn't really notice that when I guess we saw you play, or when we played the same bill at Iberian. I didn't really think of that of you. I thought you were like, I didn't think that you were social, like you had social issues or anything, which is funny because now I can understand that, but like you explaining it. But yeah, you were pretty. I felt like you were pretty conversational then.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time that we were on that bill, that's when I kind of started to be, try to be more social with people at shows, and so that's probably why you didn't see that.
And so do you find then that doing that is actually like more beneficial for, I guess, connecting with people and maybe getting a little more support? Like, do you find that at all or no?
I don't think I've seen any like quantifiable results from doing that yet. So like, I do it, and if they follow me or support me in some other way, that's great. And if they don't, then they don't. I completely forget they exist.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah.
You don't lose anything by like at least walking up to them and saying something.
The thing that the thing that I'm struggling with, like with us, is trying to figure out how to make the show more entertaining, because it's obvious that it doesn't really matter like what you play per se. It matters how I don't know, how like visual and how entertaining you can be like live. I don't know.
Like a spectacle.
Yeah, because there's bands that I've seen that have so much like lighting and stuff like that, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like I think it's cool, but then the music isn't necessarily the greatest thing ever, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like I don't care about anything besides the music, But I guess like we're not trying to sell to other musicians. We're trying to sell to fucking
People, yeah.
Yeah.
But just like regulars. I don't know. I don't even know what the fuck
Regulars.
They call them. Yeah, regular people.
Normies.
People. Yeah, normies.
That's like calling someone a muggle. We're trying to sell it to muggles. But no, but for sure, like people just get distracted. Like, oh my God, shiny. That's great, and it's like really not.
Right.
You're like, no, but are you listening though? Because it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a unfortunate thing, but it's not how it used to be. I think we kind of came up, since we like enjoyed listening to bands from like the 60s and 70s, and they just had to be good, like they just had to have good music. They didn't have to be necessarily a spectacle or anything like that. And I think that mentality we kind of thought was still existed, where just play a bunch and you might get signed to a record label, and now it's like almost that's not a thing anymore.
Right.
Now you have to do everything on your own, unfortunately.
Or pay some other bum.
Unless you're fucking Justin Bieber or some shit like that playing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But it's just that's not my cup of tea,
Justin Bieber, please watch this.
But Nick, so what are some of your influences?
I'd probably try to narrow it down to probably couple bands, artists. Brian Eno was a big one. Kraftwerk, David Bowie, obviously.
Oh, nice.
Talking Heads, and fifth one's always the hardest because that's where it starts to get a little more nebulous. But maybe Duran.
I was gonna say I saw you post something about them not too long ago. So
I post about them probably pretty frequently.
the one that I think, well, the weird thing is that I think we both probably, well, you know more than I would about this, but I really enjoy 80s synth pop for some reason. I don't know why, but I really like it a lot. And Duran, I've heard a decent amount from them, and I like them. I think I'm more into like Depeche Mode and Tears for Fears and that type of thing. But definitely the Talking Heads, I had like an epiphany with them, and I could hear all like my favorite bands like Radiohead, Modest Mouse. Like I could hear like their influence in that band, Talking Heads. Which, like for example, like the way he sings, like I feel like Isaac Brock from Modest Mouse takes a lot of that, and also fucking Charles from the Pixies as well.
I could see that.
Yeah, I feel like
where it's not really singing. It's just
it's more of like talking and just being weird. You know what I'm saying?
Talking and wailing.
Yeah, yeah, just doing like weird ad libs almost, and his like what like a song I can think of is the fuck is that song? It's off of Fear of Music, the first song. Take a look at these hands.
That is Remain in Light and It's Born Under Punches.
That one, Born Under Punches. So like that song where he's just like woo like doing all that weird shit. Like that's so, it's weird, man. That's like another thing. Their music got me into a band that literally plays like the same thing over and over again, but there's subtle changes like in the vocals or the melody or something. Like for example, like the bass part is the same the whole song. Yeah, it's just literally that the whole song. Yeah. And the only thing that changes is like his vocal part, and I think like they add harmonies at some point, but like the drums and the bass stay the same. And like they're the first band that really got me into, I guess, appreciating that type of like thing happening in a song.
Yeah, it's more of a funk Afrobeat kind of vibe.
Yeah, which is weird because they're all white people.
It is weird.
They're weird. They're a weird band.
I like them a lot though. They're an interesting. Their first two albums are just kind of like it's almost like I don't know. It's like I would say like a funky indie almost. Like what's that song? Work for the Government. What's that song called?
Don't Worry About the Government.
Yeah, Don't Worry About that song. I love that fucking song so much, man. Like that's such a weird song,
Yeah, it's weird as funk bass, and there's a mandolin. I think there's a banjo in there.
That that thing. Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? Did you ever play that game? I think it was Sim City before like Sims. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, I used to play SimCity a lot.
Yeah, didn't that one had like Bowser in it, right?
Yeah, the Super Nintendo one did. Yeah.
Okay, that kind of that would be like the song for that.
I can kind of see that.
You know what I'm saying? Like if there's no vocals on it, just like that boom, like that, that little
opening credit song.
Another question that I've asked almost everyone that's from here, because it's always interesting to me to hear about this, but what have you noticed? What changes have you noticed in the scene, and I guess in terms of like, have you noticed a difference in genres and stuff like that, and whatnot?
I would say no, not really.
Really, okay.
A lot of the groups and artists that were in the scene when I started it about a decade ago are still in it. Maybe just in different bands or in different venues, but a lot of them are just still around. So, like Jerry X, for example, she was doing it before I did, and she's still doing it. And there are a lot of other artists that are kind of the same way. So I haven't really noticed a ton of changes. A lot of bands come and go, and they change their personnel, but at the core they're pretty much the same in a lot of ways, and they change their names if they get like a new member. But it's I haven't noticed any like radical genre changes. Maybe a little more country than there was.
Really?
Yeah.
Country.
Like well, at least in the downtown scene, there's probably some more country. Like at Caddy's, for example, being there, they have a lot of country and like classic rock bands.
Mm-hmm.
They bring that kind of vibe to downtown where they didn't have it before, and that, that's okay. But that would be a measurable change in the downtown scene, at least.
I think, would you say that that's probably due to, I feel like folk music kind of got popular a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, I forgot about folk music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got popular and kind of went away.
Yeah, it's gone now. What's
Yeah.
that band that's super famous? The Avid, is it the Avid Brothers or, fuck, I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't like that stuff. No offense to anyone who plays it, but I just don't.
Yeah, there were some bluegrass bands around like 6 years ago, but I feel like that was more Tampa than St. Pete.
Probably.
I find
that's where I saw them.
I find it so strange that Tampa and St. Pete can be so different, and it's only like 30 minutes away from each other.
Yeah, it's weird.
That doesn't make any sense.
Until recently, last couple of years, I never really spent much time in the Tampa music scene, so I can't really speak to like how that's changed in the past few years. But St. Pete, like I said, is mostly still the same.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird to me. When we lived in Miami, it was mainly just a bunch of like hard rock metal bands, and they were putting us on the bill with those type of bands, which makes no sense because we're like at that time too we were playing a lot more I would say more progressive stuff, very like mellow and kind of more Beatles-esque. And now it seems like there's a resurgence of psych rock bands happening, which is interesting, because it's like, where did this come from?
I don't think I've noticed. When I see bands, I don't usually think of like what kind of genre they fit into.
You just kind of take them for what they are, like
Yeah.
music-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
I think I kind of do the same too. I'm just listening. And then if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. I think if I start putting it into genre, I think I start thinking like that.
Yeah, like if someone asked me, "Hey, what's a good, funk jazz band or something?" then I could probably like go through the list of local bands in my head and like, "Oh yeah, these guys," or something,
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, the only reason for me personally, like, if there was a band where I felt like they didn't stick to a genre, then I wouldn't know what to say. But I feel like a lot of bands that like typically stick to like a genre. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like if a funk band plays, if there's a funk band, like usually it's just like every song kind of sounds like funk. Like if it's a psych rock band, every song is a little psych rock band. It's a psych rock song. So that's, for me personally, that's why I don't know. I kind of wish. I wish every band was like experimental, like where they did just different shit. Like you could never tell like where they were gonna go with like their next song and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know, man. I feel like people like today we were listening to Green Day, for example. I don't like them personally, but they every song sounded the same to me, and I'm like, how the fuck did 3 people that did this get so big?
I would say it's when they did it.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, it's just, I don't like, personally, like I'm a huge fan of like Radiohead and the Beatles, and I don't know if you are, but like I feel like they changed their genres of music all the time, and that kept them fresh, and also probably brought them more more fans like that. Or, oh, they're doing this shit now? I kind of like this stuff,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. And even some of those 80s bands too, like they did that as well. Like Depeche Mode, I would say, like although they have a darker, vibe to them, I feel like they also kind of touch different styles of music as well, I don't know. But yeah, so do you think, so are you saying now that you're starting to kind of like I guess be more involved with the Tampa scene, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really play Tampa much until I was like a solo artist, so that's only been past couple years or so. So now I've been going to Tampa more often for shows, my own shows mostly.
Yeah, to perform.
Yeah, and just kind of be part of that scene.
That's cool. Yeah, I want to. It's like weird because I feel like we've been here for almost 7-8 years, and I feel like we're just starting to like be involved more in the scene, and specifically with the St. Pete scene. I feel like that's a new thing for us. But even here, like we just moved here to Seminole Heights, and I didn't even know that Microgroove was a venue, for example. I didn't know that Ella's was a venue, that type of shit. So I'm just like, I feel like we've been like kind of stuck playing like the same venues and shit like that.
Yeah,
you know?
and a lot of places I find in Tampa are hard to get into, at least for me. Like Ella's and Microgroove, for example, don't want to have anything to do with me, and that's okay. I mean, that's going to happen. And I find that's more often the case over here than it is over there. So maybe like the marketing scene is a little different. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
That's actually interesting. I think I get what you're saying, because I definitely have like reached out to Ella's and just haven't heard anything back from them. But I've also gotten a straight up no from from the Independent. Which I'm glad that they could just be, you know, like honest and just say like no, like like you're not for us. But
Well, no is better than no response at all.
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, like my feelings weren't hurt by it, but them and New World Brewery, but their thing was if we don't respond to you, that means no. And it's like, why don't you just say no then?
Yeah, that's the response we ended up getting.
Oh yeah. I'll tell you more about that off the record.
Oh, for real? Shit, I want to hear that. So, what are some of your favorite venues to play at?
The ones that still exist.
Yeah.
The ones that are open.
Let's see, the ones that still exist. Nothing comes immediately to mind. I used to like playing at Ruby's Elixir a lot, but I haven't done that as Terrapin, so that's in downtown.
In St. Pete?
Mm-hmm.
Never even heard of that place.
And it's been there almost a decade.
Wow.
I'm gonna send you a message just like, hey man, send me all these venues.
Yeah, you should. They'd probably have you guys.
For real?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I see. Like that saddens me. Like I don't even fucking know. Like there's so many of these fucking places. Dude.
I feel like I think it's because we're used to Miami, and if a venue hosts rock and that's its thing, you know of them. Like they're big. If you hear like there's like a lot of like holes in the walls that people just you miss it. You know, you drove by, you didn't even know it was a thing, and then that's kind of like I think the hardest part of keeping up with all this. It's just like I've never heard of that place.
Those are my favorite places too, by the way. Like those dive bars, those are always my favorite, just because like, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say Emerald, in
I never
downtown
played
St.
there
Pete.
either.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I did a show there a few months ago, and it was probably the best one I've had yet.
Really? Why?
Well, it was just me and my drum machine, my slimmest setup possible, and it was jam packed. People are dancing. It was awesome, you know.
Fuck.
I was just like improvising some bullshit for like an hour.
For
and
real?
People were into it. Yeah,
That's fucking badass, man.
it was pretty cool.
Sounds
That's
fun.
so cool, dude. You would kill it in Miami.
Yeah,
People like the electronic stuff down
I've
there.
tried to get into some places there, but not really heavily. So
Well, sir, maybe we can book something down there together.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, we're playing down there the 9th, and we're gonna continue doing that. But yeah, maybe for the next one we'll keep you in mind for sure.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, we brought down Lassiu. That was 2 months ago.
What was 2 months ago? November?
No,
December.
December now.
no, it was January. Yeah, it was
It was
January.
January.
Yeah, so last month. Yeah, we
Nice.
brought them down, and I
That
felt
was really good.
yeah, it was fun. It was in an art gallery, so it's like a venue, like a building that's just kind of like, I guess they rent it out for like art showings and shit like that. And yeah, that's kind of the thing down there. I feel is there's more places that do both like art and also do live music as well, and I like that better. I feel, you know, because it feels more intimate rather than going to like a bar that you're expected to bring a certain amount of people. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just not being on a stage was interesting because we were like level with everyone. It was just on the ground there, so it was like people were just standing around staring at us. Like, yeah, go ahead,
It was
mess
weird.
up.
But cool.
It was cool. It was
And
fun.
yeah, I forgot. Oh, well, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Don't forget. Never
Well, no, yeah. So yeah, definitely Shit, yeah, and if you need help with, I mean, this is not necessarily podcast material, but but yeah, definitely if you need help like looking for shit down there, like your music would definitely kill it for sure. Like your stuff is right up their alley, man. That's like, I mean,
Yeah.
Miami Vice, bro, fucking 80s.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. They'd eat it up.
80s
For
synthy
sure.
stuff. So what are some of your what are some locals that you have seen down here that you like?
Local artists and bands. Let's see. I'm a pretty big fan of Gushing, actually. He's a coworker of mine. We're actually friends, but we connected on the music because we, like you mentioned earlier, we kind of do some similar stuff. So I always enjoy seeing him. We actually have a show together at the Emerald in a couple of weeks, so that'll be pretty cool.
Nice.
Infinite Third is always good. Who else?
I mean, I put you on the spot
No,
there.
I'm terrible with names too, so that doesn't help. Toasty Rye.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Riley,
yeah,
right?
always a big fan of him. Love his bass lines that he has programmed in there.
Yeah, I saw, well, we played on the same bill a while ago at the Benz, and that was the first time I met him, and I was like, yeah, he did a really good job of making, I guess, like the parts within songs sound different. Like I don't know how that stuff works. I'm not very like tech savvy, so I'm not really sure like what goes into, I guess, sequencing and all that stuff. Actually, you could obviously about this, so yeah, like how like what goes into, I guess, building a song, like when it comes to that sequencing.
It's different depending on the piece of gear, so I can't really speak to that, like how he does it specifically. I don't think he uses a laptop. I could be mistaken.
I don't think so either, actually.
So he probably has a standalone sequencer that has some pre-built loops in it that he sets at certain intervals to play drum beat A from measure A to B, and something like that. But like I said, I can't really speak to that without knowing what gear he uses exactly.
Well, you can use yourself as an example, though.
Yeah, so like what I do, I have a drum machine called the Tempest that it's up to 8 bars, 16 steps apart. You can change the quantization and the time signature. And there are a couple of different methods for recording, so you can record say drum hits by activating certain pads on the 16 beats, or you can play them real time. You hit the record button and you can play the keyboard or MIDI keyboard into it, so you have like a full actual keyboard, because this one doesn't have one. So that's how I record bass lines and melody lines, is from another keyboard, and I just hit record, play it, and it'll just keep going until I turn that off or switch it to a different sequence.
So, but are you saying, so do you do that usually live, or is something that when you're creating a song, you'll kind of like, you'll basically, what's the word? You will, I'm trying to find this word. Because I believe I know, like, different tiles or pads rather, you can save patterns on them, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you can do that, and within the pattern itself, so it has 4 different modes saved, like pattern mode and sound mode, mutes, and time step. So the pattern mode, each pad has a different pattern on it, but then when you're in sound mode within a certain pattern, each 16 steps has a different sound tied to it. So like you've got the kick and then the snare and hi-hat and so forth, or whatever you wanted. So you can dive down into the sound design territory within each pattern for every single instrument that you have programmed into there. And so each sound has its own pattern within. It's kind of hard to explain, but it has a pattern within the pattern.
Yeah,
right?
like Inception, but for patterns.
Yeah. So for the kick, for example, if you just wanted to do a simple 4 on the floor, you'd activate it on 1, 5, 9, and 13.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just something like that, and then just do the same thing for everything else, but then for more pitched sounds like a bass line or a melody line, you would want to use the keyboard for that as you're recording.
So basically, does it work as you're not so if you're playing a bass line, are you recording within like basically like like whatever the measure is, like the length of the measure, and then it just kind of loops it, is what it is?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. Cause I have the Roland JDXI, and I use that specifically for like drum patterns or drum sequences or whatever. But you can't. Oh, can you do that? Actually, you might be able to do that. I haven't tried doing like a real time record on top of it, but I think that you have to actually assign like notes to the top to like the actual like pads, which kind of like that hinders you from being able to play something that sounds like real.
I don't know how well that one works. Like I haven't really messed with it.
It's okay. I'm not gonna lie. Like the stuff you have is definitely like pro level shit.
Well, the Tempest is made specifically for beats, but I would imagine the JDXI is more for like melodic sequences and so forth.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I don't really use it at all for that because it sounds so, and it's also like the issue with this one is that even if you want to do like I think more than one measure, because it's only really a measure, the actual like pads themselves, they don't. You can't visually see it. Like if you're trying to like add in like extra kicks or whatever on that second measure, you can't see it.
It's weird.
Yeah, so I don't.
There's no like paging or anything.
Mm-mm. So yeah, you know how like I'm sure it works the same way, but like the light will go through like each pad, and then you can just touch it or whatever.
Right.
So once it hits that second measure, it just goes dark and you can't see it anymore.
There's probably a page or something.
Yeah.
Because a lot of like the Moog I have does that too, but you have to go to the next page, and I think there are like 8 pages on that one. So
yeah, I don't know. I honestly just use it for like simple little electronic beats that we have in our songs, and I do want to get something a little. Well, we are planning on getting the Octapad.
Nice.
You familiar with that? The Roland. Yeah, so that she can do that live instead of having to worry about a piece of equipment doing it.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I definitely want to try that.
Very different.
Yeah. But so when it comes to songwriting, then how what are some of what are some ways that you are, I guess, go through that process of writing a song?
Well, typically, you've seen my setup online, I'm sure, right?
Yep.
Gigantic. So I have everything just laid out similarly to how I would live, and I just essentially program some synth patches, a beat or so, and just kind of add to it or subtract from it until I think it sounds good. And if I think it sounds good, then I'll save it and remember how to play it later, and there you go. That's essentially it.
And do you when you're writing, do you think of certain themes to write about or anything like that? Because I know you have some vocals and
yeah,
some
I mean, not typically. Like even the vocals and the lyrics are kind of improvised too.
Okay.
So a lot of the times I'll use the David Byrne method, where I'll just kind of sing gibberish over a melody and kind of fit that gibberish into English words, and until I have something that kind of sounds good.
Is that what he does?
Not all the time, but he has done that.
Okay, so you've read that he does that?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Like on Speaking in Tongues, for example, he does that a lot.
Oh, that would make sense. That's like
basically worrying about the lyrics later, essentially.
That's like Anthony Kiedis. I think. Well, I'm sure he's also fucking with a interviewer, but they asked him what do your lyrics mean, because some of it sounds like ridiculous. He's like, I don't know at all what I'm trying to say, which is kind of funny.
Sir Psycho Sexy, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does the Brazilian children get their fill line?
Yeah. Well, they're starving to death, Daniel.
Yeah.
So.
It's so random in the context of the song.
No, there's one line in Give It Away, something about cheese. I mean, so I don't know. He could have been trying to be honest.
That's funny.
I don't know, actually.
I for me personally, when I'm writing a song, usually what happens is I'll come up with the instruments first, like the structure of the song and all that stuff. the melody usually comes in like right after that, but then like the theme of the song, like what I want to write about, that will be the last thing I do usually. Sometimes I'll have an idea like, oh, I want to write about climate change, or I want to write about, I don't know, something, simulation theory or some shit like that. And then like I'll try to write a song that I think in my head sounds like it would be about that, if that makes any sense. You know?
Yeah.
Those are just some, I always try to like, do you find that you try to come up with different ways to kind of approach writing a song, or?
Well, in the instances that I actually sit down and write lyrics, I always hate them. And I throw them out. So I've tried that, and it doesn't work for me. But typically the themes that I feel that go into the songs are typically what I'm feeling at the time. And, you know, if it's melancholy, I might be feeling melancholy, or excited, and it would sound excited, and so forth. And so I just kind of inject that mostly subconsciously into how the song sounds. And because a lot of them don't have any lyrics, I can only convey that through the title.
Okay. So it's almost like I would say that that's very similar to an artist painting, right? Because their painting kind of like conveys what, I guess the title is kind of like, oh, this, it's giving the person seeing it less of more of an idea of what it's about, rather than them trying to figure it out on their own, if that makes any sense. But that's interesting then. So do you find that with some of your titles that people are like, oh, I would have never thought that that was what that song is about? Or?
Well, the problem with my titles also is that some of the meanings might be kind of obscured or obtuse, and while they still relay what the overall meaning was, the average person might not pick up on that. Like the title song and title of the last album of mine, Morning Lights, it was about a time in my life where I was suffering from severe depression, and how I was able to overcome that. And it's kind of has this hopeful vibe to it, but then also kind of melancholy at the same time.
Yeah. And that's something, that's something that obviously most people deal with, so it's super relatable. But so in that sense, are you saying that people probably wouldn't get that from that title?
Probably not, but maybe. I think it depends on the person, really.
Yeah. Is the song itself like sounding? Does it sound melancholy or no?
I would say so, but hopeful at the same time. You know, like the sun is rising.
Okay.
Is a kind of vibe that I was trying to get out of that.
So did you? I get so now that, because I've had, I don't know, on a previous podcast I had a coworker of mine that's actually your doppelganger, by the way. Yeah, his name is Brad Hampson. He actually looks a lot like you. Weird. I've shown him photos. This is so weird. I've shown him photos of you. I'm like, dude, this is your doppelganger. But we had a podcast and we talked about depression and stuff like that, and he was suffering from it like most of his life, and just recently I guess decided to do something about it and got on some medication, and it's helped him tremendously. But is that something you found, like, is that something that you've overcome now? Do you feel like?
Well, of course I'll never be cured of it.
No, of course not.
But I find myself to be in a much better place than I was like 3 or 4 years ago when I originally wrote that song, started to write it.
Do you find that music is it's like a kind of like it's a therapeutic to you?
I would say so. Like when I first started doing this, I came off a 5-year relationship, and so I had all this extra free time, but then also I was very depressed. So I spent most of my free time just writing music and just churned out the material. And so maybe within 4 weeks or so, I had like 9 songs written for an album, and I just churned that out. And that's when I really started to dive into this whole electronic project. And since doing that, I've, overcome a lot of my own insecurities, not just through the music, but in meeting people, and I don't want to say validation, because I don't often care what other people think about the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, originally when I started it, I was only doing it for myself because I was bored, and then to have people actually interested in it, that's kind of a good feeling.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying in terms of the validation thing. I think the main thing that, like, for me personally, because I suffered from, I would say suffer, but not as much as I did, but I suffered from anxiety, and it was pretty bad. It's definitely under control now. But it's definitely like you realize that you're not alone, although you can still feel that way just because you're in your own head, right? But you realize that there's so many people out there that kind of go through the same thing. And if your music conveys that, that's a great way of reaching out to other people. And usually people that understand that, they can kind of, they end up becoming fans or whatever. And also, like, it also can help them too, which is fucking amazing,
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of like, for me personally, like, if someone ever walked up to me and was like, hey, like, your shit fucking, like, it changed my life, like, that would be awesome.
It would be cool.
I mean, that would be a big ask, but that would be really neat, But that's awesome. So yeah, so you're in a better place now, and as we spoke before, you're
while the music helped a lot, I was in therapy for a few years too, and I don't want to undercut the importance of that as well.
Yeah,
it's true.
I went to therapy as well, and I did find that was extremely helpful. It I don't know about for you, but for me, it was just kind of like it almost like talk. It was it's weird because although there's a person in front of you, you're really kind of like talking, at least in my opinion, you're talking to yourself, and you're you're kind of like hearing how ridiculous some things sound, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Really all they do is just kind of guide you on your paths of thought, and provide you information and solutions to whatever problems you might be dealing with at the time.
Yeah.
But really the main responsibility in healing yourself is on you.
Definitely. Yeah, like, for example, going to therapy.
Yeah.
Number one.
Do you do any other things that help with that at all? Maybe with stress and whatnot?
Well, I've recently started getting back into model building and painting, more visual art, because I used to be a cartoonist and draw a lot, and I haven't really done that in nearly a decade. So I started getting back into that, and I just started getting into painting and so forth, like figurine painting and diorama painting, and that's pretty soothing to me, I think.
I saw, I think you did like a diorama? Is that what you?
Yeah. So yesterday I finished a diorama scene of the 50s World of Worlds.
Yeah, that was cool. That's tight. You should incorporate that somehow into your live performances.
Maybe.
That would be really unique, actually.
I don't know how I could.
I mean,
it's pretty small. It's like that big.
You'd have to create something bigger.
I thought about it. I have
Build
something
it
else in
bigger.
mind that I was going to create from scratch.
What's that? Is that for yourself?
Well, like a diorama that I can't buy in the store and assemble and paint it. So I'd have to just gather materials from like different sets and kind of assemble it. I was going to do a final battle scene from Castlevania.
I've never seen that movie.
No, well, it's
Is
a
that
game.
a movie?
It's a game.
Sorry, game.
Yeah.
My bad.
So I was gonna assemble a bunch of like castle parts and vampires and monsters and turn it into a battle scene.
That's pretty cool. How long does it usually take for you to finish something like that?
Well, the World of Worlds one took me about 2 weeks overall, 2 or 3 weeks maybe.
And that's what, like a couple hours a day of working on it?
Yeah, I would say so. There's a lot of waiting for paint to dry.
Yeah, true. That's true.
Can't do anything until it's dries.
That's cool, man. The only thing, well, I guess besides music, the only other thing I really like do a lot is sports. Like, I just like playing. But that's like for stress, like to relieve stress, because personally I don't really like working out. I just like the activity of competition, I guess.
That works too.
Yeah, or video games.
I do a lot of that too.
You do? What games are you into?
Recently I've been switching between the new Super Smash Brothers.
No way! Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah!
And Red Dead Redemption 2.
I haven't played that,
I've
man.
been wanting to get that game.
It's good.
Yeah, I want to play that game. I'm a big fan of Grand Theft Auto, and like I know it's similar to that. Do you play Metal Gear at all? Do you like Metal Gear?
I haven't really gotten into it.
Fuck, man, I feel like you would like that game.
I probably would. I played the NES one. That's about it.
You liked
and
it?
a little bit of Metal Gear Solid like 20 years ago.
Yeah, the one on the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you would enjoy that just knowing you, like, or maybe not. Do you like puzzle games, kind of like
Yeah.
stealthy shit? Yeah, then you'd probably like.
Which one's the one on the E NES?
Isn't that like
I think
the
it was
one?
just Metal Gear.
Yeah, Metal
Oh,
Gear.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it was like 2D, right? Yeah, almost like Mario, but yeah,
It was overhead view.
have you played the Switch at all?
Yeah, I have it.
You do? I think it's fucking awesome.
I love
Oh
it.
my god.
Yeah.
His brother brought it. He's been obsessed.
Are you playing Mario Kart on it, dude? I fucking love that thing. That thing is. I want to get one really bad. We've been trying to save up some money for a sofa.
Yeah.
For a couch.
Yeah, so you can play the games on it.
Exactly.
It's like, no, we can't get the Switch until we get the. Well, where are we gonna sit?
So we're about to hit that hour mark. Before we go, do you have any upcoming dates you want to plug? Anything? Your social media, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I have a couple shows coming up. The next one, I'm doing the featured artist set at Bula Cafe on the 9th.
Okay, February.
Yeah, 9th of February. And then the next one after that is on the 22nd at the Emerald. And so Toasty Rye, Gushing, and Sandstorm are going to be in the same bill as well.
Nice.
So that should be a great show.
That's cool,
22nd
man.
Emerald.
Fuck yeah. So those are the two you got coming up.
Yep, I don't
Sweet.
really have anything booked beyond that.
Sweet. And then, well, maybe Miami soon too.
That would be pretty cool. Working on something for Orlando maybe next month with Moondragon, maybe.
I've never.
Potentially.
Yeah. What's that?
He's a Orlando synthwave artist.
Oh, nice. We haven't really. I feel like there's. I don't know though, but I feel like there's not much out there in Orlando. We've played Will's Pub and one other place, Uncle Lou's, but
I usually play at Iron Cow,
I never heard of them.
and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Iron
Is it?
Cow.
What is it? Just like a dive bar kind of thing?
It's not really divey.
So like a regular venue.
Yeah,
kinda?
regular venue and bar. They have a
Okay.
big stage, nice lights, a nice sound system.
I'll have to hit you up for that though. But yeah, man, thank you for coming, and
Yeah, thank you.
I'll have all your details and stuff on the description so people can just find it.
Yeah, that works.
Although we don't have a super large subscription, but but it's the thought. that
Better than
counts.
nothing.
Yeah. Thanks again, brother.
Thank you.